Yo, guys, welcome back to the Shades of Brown podcast. This is episode 7. Today, we're going to have two segments for you guys. I'm Akash.
I'm Roble.
Our two segments today are going to be our reactions to week 5 and then our starts and sits for week 6. There are many teams on bye this week. This is when bye weeks start. So make sure to pay attention to that so you know who to start instead of your players that are on bye. We can start with the Thursday night game from last week, Seattle versus Los Angeles, the Rams. So as a Seahawks fan, it was just like a huge L, just overall L's everywhere. Russell Wilson's out for 6 to 8 weeks, and we lost the game obviously. To be honest, the defense that everybody was worried about wasn't as bad as people made it out to be in that game, especially in the first half. They played really well. It just, once again, the Seahawks just crumbled in the second half. Obviously, they didn't have Russell Wilson, but at the end of the day, the Seahawks roster this year was kind of mediocre. We weren't going to be really Super Bowl contenders, but it sucks to see Russell Wilson go down.
Dude, I was looking up something. It was like something with Jamal Adams. Did he play like bad? Did he play bad that game? Or
He just had a play where he looked a little bit lost, so the people make the Blitz Boy memes came back because he looked pretty lost in coverage again.
yeah. Yeah,
So
he's towards the bottom in coverage grades. I still think he's a really good safety. It's a benefit when you can have somebody that can
he's
rush the
like
pass.
Cam Chancellor who can't cover. It's literally what he is. He's
Yeah.
like
He
Cam
can
Chancellor who
deliver,
can't cover and he hits a little bit less hard.
which is pretty big downgrade.
Yeah.
But still, he's not. He's actually he's a good safety for what he like does. And like paying somebody to get 9 sacks from the safety position and his coverage isn't as bad as some people make it to seem. I think he's a pretty good player, but I'm gonna focus back to the game. This kind of rules out the Seahawks playoff contention
I mean, they
hopes,
could
in
still
my
maybe
opinion.
sneak in the wild card if they can maybe go
Potentially,
50-50, 50-50 for the next
potentially.
6 weeks.
It
But
depends how Geno
realistically, they're
Smith
probably not going
plays.
to make it in this competitive
Depends how
division.
Geno Smith plays, though.
Yeah, it's
I
true. He
mean,
didn't look
he didn't look too
terrible.
bad.
I mean,
Yeah, he didn't look horrible. So if he can just be serviceable and get them over the line in the games that they need him to, I think he'll be fine. But aside from that, it's just the Seahawks. I think are just gonna be in the same boat for like the next couple of years, man, because they don't have that much cap room. They can't really improve that roster that much, and their roster isn't that great. So I think they're just kind of for the past couple of years they've just been in the same situation where they're making the playoffs, making the wild card, but they're not really having any success. So
yeah.
they've kind of stagnated these past few years. So I think something needs to change eventually. And this game was polar opposite. Rams are a team that's trending upwards. They got a new QB in Matt Stafford, who's looked pretty good to start the season. And I think they went from a team that stagnated under Jared Goff. They're definitely trending upwards. That's a pretty big division win for them. And they're definitely one of my favorites to win the Super Bowl this year, as they have two of the best defensive players in the
The
league
two
and
best,
a
in my
really good,
opinion. Yeah.
yeah, and really good offense. And also a special mention to Robert Woods. Had a great game yesterday. I think there's just going to be more of that to come with defenses diverting a little more attention to Cup. I think those targets are going to balance out for Woods and Cup.
Yeah. I'll like to add on to that Cooper Cup thing. We stated last week on our podcast, like, Cooper Cup, for sure, he had a really good start to the season in those first 4 weeks, but that 30 points per game was not sustainable, and it was pretty obvious that it wouldn't be sustainable. I still think Cooper Cup can finish as a top 10, top 12 receiver, potentially even top 7, but a top 3 finish I don't see likely. Because when you look at that top 3 every year, the talent that is in that top 3, I don't think Cooper Cup is as talented as those players. While he does have really good route running and really good hands, I just don't think he is on that level of talent to where when defense is focused in on him, I don't think he'll be able to put up those huge numbers still like players like Devonte Adams or a DeAndre Hopkins or a like back in the day Julio Jones or a Calvin Johnson could do when they had the defense is completely focused on them and still are able to produce fantasy points. So I think we're going to see better games from Robert Woods incoming as defenses zone in more and more on Cooper Kupp. And I think that we got a glimpse of that in the game on Thursday. And yeah, I think eventually, like you said, they will balance out. And I'd be confident starting both of these guys going forward for sure.
Yep, definitely.
Next we have the Jets versus Falcons game that was in London. A lot closer. I mean, it was a more fun game than I thought it would be to watch for sure. I think for fantasy wise, the biggest takeaway was definitely Kyle Pitts. Although he did get lots of this production with Calvin Ridley out, I think owners of Pitts should be more confident going forward, especially coming out of this bye week. That I think Arthur Smith did see the how like obviously they saw the talent because that's why they drafted him, but I think he saw how productive Pitts can be when he has the volume, and I think the volume will go up as the season goes on more and more, even with Ridley back in. So I'd be confident in Kyle Pitts going forward for sure. Huge game from him.
Yeah, like you said, he needs to be seeing 10 plus targets every single week. He's just that good. There's certain guys in the league that if you give them the ball, they will produce. And I think he's definitely one of them. He's a cheat code on offense. Like we talked about this, linebackers on him. There is no comp. You cannot. No
Yeah,
linebacker can
like I
match up
mean
against
it. Like
the league.
I like it may be annoying as a viewer for you to hear the announcers every play say, "Kyle, it's not fair. Kyle Pitts is like a receiver playing tight end," but the truth is that's the truth. He has the speed of a receiver,
That
but
good.
he has the
He's
height
that
of a
good.
tight end, and he runs routes like a receiver, and he has hands like a receiver. So like he's ridiculous. There's a reason people are calling him a generational tight end talent, and that's because he is, and he has all the intangibles to be a top elite tight end in this league. And I think the only thing he's really missing is volume and experience. And I think as the season goes on, he's gonna get both of those. So I would hold on to him for sure. And if you bought low on him after those first 5 weeks, it's good. He's gonna be huge for you going forward for sure.
Yeah. Did you touch on Cordell Patterson?
No, I didn't. You can go ahead
Yeah.
though, for sure.
I mean, this is pretty groundbreaking stuff that what he's doing. It's really
It's
interesting
really,
because
yeah.
this guy was just a return special teams wildcat guy,
Ever since
and
his
now he's been
Cowboys
thrown
days.
into a main role into Atlanta's offense, and he is actually producing. There's 4 weeks now in a row. Well, 4 weeks now in a row where he's had plus receptions, and he's almost had a TD in every single game that he's played aside from week one. So, and right now he's what I think he's classified as a running back,
Yeah.
and he's basically RB3 PPR wise. It's ridiculous stuff, and I know we were high on Mike Davis at the start of the season, and he had a good game as well. But Patterson's kind of taking the lead role in that offense. He's getting most of the
I
value.
think
It's a really interesting story to see this season.
Yeah, I think Patterson obviously is the better. I wouldn't say running back. He's the better, like, use. I don't even know what to call him, but
Yeah, weird.
he's producing more than Davis. I'd still be confident starting Mike Davis at flex. He's giving you a solid 10 to 13 points every week, and I'd be confident that that's going to continue. But Patterson is an RB1 at this point. I mean, he's just PPR wise, he's just broken. He's running. He's literally running routes out at the X position sometimes. He's running routes from the slot. He's running routes out of the backfield. He's getting carries, and on the goal line, like it's ridiculous. So he is literally ultimate fantasy weapon. He's literally getting touches in every part of the offense. So yeah, once again, I think the whole Falcons offense is really trending upwards in how we can look at them fantasy wise. But yeah, I think that's about it for the Falcons. For the Jets, really this game, like it showed that Michael Carter is really going to be taking this lead back role and he's going to run with it, I think, going forward. And it just really shows that even Corey Davis, who's shown his talent, really can't be trusted to be started every week because it's really dependent upon Zach Wilson's play.
Yeah, and Zach Wilson's been pretty inconsistent. That's
Yeah.
affected Corey Davis's play heavily.
Even
It
Jamison
sucks
Crowder too,
because
so
he's so talented, but it's just it's not a viable play every week. Especially the Jets have one of the worst rosters in the league, and most of the time going in almost all the time going to their games, they are the underdogs, and it's been really difficult for Corey Davis this season. But Zach Wilson didn't look horrible this game, but still, I think Jets need the Jets just aren't there yet. They have a they have a few more years to go, but Robert Saleh looks promising,
yeah.
and they're coming together. I would say they look better than last year. That's for sure.
Yep, I agree with that 100%. I think we move on. Patriots Texans. Another game that was closer than many thought it would be. Everyone expected the Patriots to really run away with this game right away. But once again, I mean the Texans just came out really strong. Davis Mills looked good, and they really were dominating this game up until the late second half, and the Patriots really just made a surge to come back. Mac Jones once again efficient. He had that interception, but he's pretty efficient. He looks like he's gonna have a long career in this league, whether it be as just a game manager or if he takes that next step over the next few years. But he is 100% already looks like an elite game manager in this league, and he looks composed. And I really like that going forward. He's even if Bill Belichick retires before Mac Jones' career ends, I think Mac Jones will learn a lot from him, learn a lot from Josh McDaniels, and I think he's gonna have a very good career for sure.
Yeah. Few takeaways here. Um, I know you might touch on this, but Damian Harris
Yeah,
actually had a really good game. Really unfortunate to get injured. I think in the second quarter,
yeah,
he was probably on pace for 25, close to 25 carries in that game. He was averaging 4 yards per carry. Do the math there. He's rushing for over 100 yards and potentially another touchdown, and possibly even another touchdown if he doesn't fumble close to the goal line. I think it was,
and that's
which
what he
was
got
pretty
injured.
unlucky.
So yeah,
Yeah, I know the performance looked underwhelming fantasy wise, but I think it was 9.8 points, but still a really good. It's a sign of things. It's a sign of what's to come for Damian
yeah,
Harris, I think.
he
And
really
then
has that lead back role there. And I don't think it's really close. The talent is just the talent's just so much like he's just better than everyone else in that backfield. So
yeah,
if he plays this week against the Cowboys, I'll be ready again for another big game as long as he doesn't get injured. So yeah,
and then also touch on the Texans a little bit. Actually played a really good football game. I mean, with these stats that Davis Mills put up, 21 for 29, 312 yards and 3 TDs. I fully expect a QB that puts up those numbers to win that game. But Texans defense unfortunately let the Patriots creep back in it near the end of the game, and then Brandon Cooks for almost all the Texans offense had a pretty solid day. Brandon Cooks was the only underwhelming performer, but I don't think there's no reason. I think Brandon Cooks is seriously, he might be one of the few actual like matchup proof receivers in the league. I haven't He's looked pretty good almost every single game this season.
yep,
and this one wasn't a bad game. It's just that he didn't get the volume that he's had in previous
And
games.
J.C.
So
Jackson has actually been very good against receivers this season. Really been like locking them up. So
yeah, so the matchup too kind of played into that, but Brandon Cook's still a top end fantasy receiver and definitely probably one of the most underrated players in the league. I think he's been traded around a lot. Not too many teams respect his value, as you can see. But I
yeah,
think he's a really solid player. He's probably gonna get paid in the off season. So
yeah.
yeah,
Um, yeah. I think we move on. Lions Vikings.
I'll
Just
take this one.
yeah,
I'll take this one first. Let me find the stats. No, I'm in the 49. Shoot. Lions Vikings. It's just it's just the same old thing every single. We should not be 0-5. This is the thing that really frustrates me. We should not be 0-5 at this stage in the season. There's too many games that we've been in it and we just haven't been able to sniff out a victory. And I think we lost on a game-winning field goal in this game too. The Vikings finally got a field goal to go their way. But it's the same old stuff, and I'm trying to find positives from this game. Goff was just average. I'm not too crazy with him. I wasn't too crazy with him at the start, but he's just average. Like he doesn't have any. He can't extend the play. He's just Jared Goff, same old Jared Goff that we saw in L.A. Except he has way less weapons and a less talented head offensive scheme put around him.
yeah,
DeAndre Swift looked good. Jamal Williams looked good, and underrated players Armand St. Brown. Dan Campbell talked about his role potentially increasing. Hit 7 receptions, 65 yards. I think he's actually a potential flex play in future weeks because he's actually seeing a good amount of volume. The coaches are praising him, and the offense in Detroit actually isn't that bad. So I think he actually is like a pretty good play going forward. But Lions just coming up short again. And the Vikings honestly didn't look that crazy this game. They couldn't finish drives, and they let us crawl back into it. But thing that separates us and them is just that they can get the job done at the end, and they
yeah,
have playmakers on both sides of the ball. Which fortunately we don't have any. We don't have a Justin Jefferson yet, and Madison ran all over our defense.
yeah,
He's a fantastic player too. So yeah, just disappointed once again.
yeah. Just a heartbreaker to be real. Once again, last minute kick and losing on that just sucks for Lions fans. And I'll touch on the Lions real quick before I move on to the Vikings, but just it really seeing the head coach how much he cares. I really think the Lions are I have a bright future. I think they may have another bad year next year, but I think they'll be able to get a QB, a real QB soon. I think they'll be able to get an outside weapon. I think once they get those and maybe a couple defensive players here and there, they can really be playoff contenders going into 2 years away. I really think they can be playoff contenders because their coach really cares about the organization and the team. He cares about his players. He has the respect of his players. And even with such a poor roster, really, they've been competing in almost every game. They haven't been blown out at all. They've really competed, and I think that's really respectable from the Lions. I think they can get a couple, for sure, we'll get a couple wins this season because they've played well. But yeah, moving on to the Vikings. First thing I want to touch on, I really think they should trade Dalvin Cook. I just don't think that, like, the drop off from Cook to Madison is that, like, really that big. Because if you look at this game, Madison had, what, 153 total yards and a touchdown. Like, that's really what you're going to be getting from Cook on a on a game to game basis. And you're going to have to pay, and Dalvin Cook's going to be getting paid a lot of money. And you can basically have the same production for much cheaper and get a lot of value back for your team if you trade Dalvin Cook. So I don't really know what they're going to do here, but they need to trade one of these two guys because once if they let Madison walk, he's gonna get paid somewhere else to be an RB1, and he's gonna be very very good because he has the talent for sure. Um, but moving
Yeah,
on to the rest of the team, once again another great showing from Justin Jefferson. But the downfall of Adam Thielen that everyone predicted at the beginning of the season has really started to show. The touchdown dependency, we see it now. Only 2 receptions for 25 yards. It's really worrying, to be honest. I really hope people sold high on Adam Thielen after those great weeks to start the season. Because the touchdown dependency is really scary. I think when people were talking about Mike Evans, obviously yesterday Mike Evans didn't have a good game against the Eagles for week 6. But Mike Evans has really showed that he can put up 15 fantasy points even without a touchdown, while Adam Thielen really just has not shown that. He does not get that volume outside of the red zone to really put up points without a touchdown. So I think that's really worrying fantasy wise. But overall, the Vikings as a team, this wasn't the greatest performance from them, but at least it's a win. And as long as you get the win, that's all that really matters. I think going forward, the Vikings really can put themselves into the contention for that last wild card spot, especially with these injuries to Seattle. And yeah, for sure, I think the Vikings can be a playoff team this season.
yeah. I mean, I want to touch on your Dalvin Cook take.
Yeah,
I think, I mean, realistically, like if you were to trade Dalvin Cook, there would be you have to factor in a lot of things. You have to factor in team morale and all this other stuff. The fans love him, and they just
yeah,
signed a extension. But like, it's actually seriously needs to be talked about. You just signed him to an extension, and there's a guy behind him that gives the basically the exact same production, except his name's not Dalvin Cook, and he
yeah.
wasn't drafted in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft. I mean, it's just I don't know what to think about Dalvin Cook. And most people touch on a little bit fantasy wise. Safely, I'm at number 2 for fantasy. Knowing his injury record, knowing how inconsistent he is at times, that's a flop pick right there. And then also for the Minnesota Vikings, this guy's not playing. I don't think he's ever finished a 16 game season or a 17 game season now. So it's just like I don't see I actually don't see the harm in potentially trading him away to Miami or the Jets or somewhere else where a
Where
team
they can
needs
get
a
some
running back.
solid value in return, some draft capital, maybe a
Yeah,
defensive player. Like, I
free
just
up
don't see
cap,
why they couldn't do it.
free up cap. Yeah,
Yeah.
like endless possibilities. But yeah, I guess what we can move into the next matchup.
Eagles
Uh,
versus Carolina.
Eagles versus Carolina.
Another
This was
game just ended by a field goal. This time I think the worst team got the win here. I don't really think the Eagles should have won this game. Although they did end up winning, I still think the Panthers are the better team. The Eagles defense just isn't that good. I think it's really holding them back. This offense is criminally underrated. They're running back away from being a top tier offense because Miles Sanders does suck. I'll continue to say this every single episode because he's not good at all. I think Kenny Gainwell should be the starter. I don't really see the hype with Miles Sanders. He has no impact in the receiving game. He literally had, let's see, he had 5 receptions, right, for 6 yards. Zero creativity or production after the catch. And yeah, I don't really know. Overall, it's just a media. Both teams are really mediocre, to be honest. I think both teams just really don't have that big impact player. I mean, the Eagles on defense, they have like Fletcher Cox, but I just don't think. I think the Panthers, obviously with CMC, they probably win this game for sure, and that is their big impact player. But the Eagles really don't have that. I think Jalen Hurts is good, but he's not that good. Like he's not. He's a starter, but he's not like that big impact player that CMC would be. So um, you know, I don't really. Yeah, that's my thoughts on this game. It's just two mediocre teams. Eagles came out on top, but
okay. So My thoughts on this: Panthers did not play well at all, and Sam Darnold, like, seriously disappointed. I think one touchdown with three interceptions. That's looking like the Jets, Sam, that we saw prior 3 years. It's he wasn't making good decisions with the ball. Chuba Hubbard did have a good game, and if C, I think like in the run game he offered basically the same exact production as CMC would, but obviously the receiving game value you're missing out. He did have a really good game, but just I think CMC is just that extra. He's just that better player that can really take you over the top. And as of Sam Darnold having a bad game, DJ Moore had a pretty underwhelming game also. So it was a game to forget for both of those players, and it's disappointing because it's a winnable game. I think their schedule only gets harder from here on out. They had a pretty easy schedule at the start of the season. This is one of the games that I would pick for them to win based off of seeing their form in the past 5 weeks, but they couldn't get the job done. So that's disappointing. And the Eagles, um, just again, like I don't even though they won this game, they're not that good of a football team. Let's be real here. Jalen Hurts, I don't think he's a bad quarterback, and he had a pretty decent game, but just accuracy questions in big games is the one question mark I would have over him. He just doesn't, when the windows are tight and stuff, he doesn't seem to be able to fit the ball in to those windows, and he kind of struggles with that. But Devontae Smith had a pretty good game. I think he's a start almost every week, except when he's facing top tier elite defenses, and Hurts is probably going to struggle as well. And Zach Ertz, well, we're recording this a few days later, just got traded to the Cardinals. So Dallas Goddard trade value, stock, fantasy football, just gone up a little bit. So
Yeah.
look out for him.
Yeah. Touching on that Zach Ertz trade, I don't really. I mean, I understand the Cardinals want weapons, but I just don't see the value in that trade, especially after. I mean, obviously Max Williams is injured right now, but after the value that Max Williams showed, I don't necessarily see why this was a move they'd make. I understand they think that. I understand that they're in like a sort of win now type of scenario since they're 5-0 and all, but I just don't really see why they did that, but I guess it could. I mean, we'll really see. I mean, obviously he can't play this week, but starting next week, we'll see what type of impact he has on that offense. But I don't really I don't think their offense is really the issue in the games. I don't really think they needed that change, but we'll see as we go forward. Next, we'll move on to the Saints and Washington game. Another high scoring game this week, which is interesting. I think this game really showed that Heineke obviously is not a good QB, but he's above average for sure. But he's just not that guy that can win you games. He's gonna have those games where he just sucks like really badly. He didn't really play well this game, to be honest, at all. Um, just overall, the Washington offense just didn't do that well. McLaurin got clamped up by Lattimore. And Antonio Gibson, I mean, sure, his fantasy stat line looked good, but 20 carries for only 60 yards is just not really that good. That's 3 yards per carry for two touch. Like, Taylor Heineke averaged more yards per carry than Antonio Gibson did. That's not really good looks, to be honest. So, I think it's really a sell high on Antonio Gibson. I really liked him going into the season, but he's been dealing with a lot of injuries on the side. He's been not as explosive as we thought he would be. His involvement in the passing game hasn't been what we thought it would be. So overall, I don't think Antonio Gibson is that top 5 fantasy running back we thought he would be. He's obviously going to finish top 15 at least, probably, but I think depending on the value you can get, you should look to trade him.
Yeah, and it's really weird. There's both RBs in this game have had their roles flipped this year, I think. both backs are more predominantly receiving backs, but they've sort of been oriented into like more rushing running backs this year.
Yeah.
Kamara's doing most of his work on the ground instead of in the air and out of the backfield, and Gibson vice versa. And Gibson, reason why I'm agreeing with Takash to sell high on him, he's not that great of a rusher. Touchdown dependency was clearly prevalent in this game, and he's not getting targets out of the backfield, which is why we thought he would be so high in our running back, which he was so why he was so high in our running back rankings. And then same thing with Alvin Kamara, although his situation's a little better because he's in a way better offense.
And he's more
But
talented, obviously.
yeah, but Kamara actually got pretty good work in the receiving game this week, but the prior few weeks that wasn't there. So it's I don't know if that can be consistent for more weeks to come, but we'll see how that goes. But Antonio Gibson, his situation I don't think is ideal, and I would agree to sell high on him. And then weirdly enough, Jameis Winston's stat line from this game was like really strange, like 50% completion on his passes but near 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, and his team came out with the W. That's a weird stat line to me. He's that's kind of what he's been showing the whole season though. I haven't watched too many Saints games, so I've only been seeing the highlights. But he's looked like he's been connecting on most of his passes, but there's been
Yeah.
like a few inconsistencies between drives. But none of his receivers are getting over 10 receptions or anything like that. So definitely distributing the ball, but I don't know how that's going to end up in big games when you're only completing 50% of your passes against a Washington defense that's been really underwhelming this season.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't like it's literally just like the Jameis Winston stat line. Like it's like he literally had 15 completions, but four of them went for touchdowns. And like it's just I don't know, it's really confusing, but I mean, they came away with the W. I don't necessarily see how that's going to like you said, I want to see how that translates to bigger games against better teams and better defenses. But overall, a pretty good game coming out from the Saints overall, and it was a good win for them. Moving on, Titans Jaguars. Derrick Henry just used them as a treadmill, basically. Just once again, just another day on the job for him. Like the 130 yards, 3 touchdowns. Like Ryan Tannehill, literally just handing the ball off the entire game, and they get a win. I mean, there's really not much else to it. I guess their defense didn't play as terribly as it has in past weeks. And yeah, that's really about it. Derrick Henry's just a different type of monster.
Um, James Robinson
Is also a monster.
is really solid. Like seriously, like, and I would like to actually see him get more volume because if he's at if my is my math wrong? Is my tell
He's
me if
at
my math wrong
8.3
here.
yards per carry.
Yeah, that's 8.3 yards per carry. That is absurd.
On
And he's
18
only doing
carries?
that
Like,
only
that's.
18 carries. And Carlos Hyde's chubby butt is taking away like 5 of these, bro. Like, dude, just give him to Robinson. He's running all over. Titans defense is nothing special. Like nothing special at all. But the past 3 weeks when James Robinson's received 15 plus carries, he's been producing. And the rest of the season, easily a top 10 running back, in my opinion. Like, seriously, with the workload that he's getting, efficiency, he's getting in the red zone, and receiving could be better. I think he had one target for like negative yards or something.
Yeah.
That could be better, but still, he's looking pretty. He's looking really good. So that's a good sign of good things to come.
Yep, for sure. I think one last takeaway from this game, especially from the Jaguars side, is that the Jaguars receivers really can't be trusted. It just like this is a game where against a weak Titans secondary, you would expect Laviska Shenault or Marvin Jones to have a big game, especially with DJ Chark breaking his ankle in week 4. But Laviska Shenault with only one reception for 58 yards and Marvin Jones with one reception for 25 yards. really goes to show that you can't really trust anybody in this on this Jaguars offense to start in fantasy other than James Robinson. So yeah, I really think the only person starting on your team every week should be James Robinson. If you're desperate at flex, you could maybe go Laviska Shenault or Marvin Jones, but it's really risky. As we saw this week, it can really backfire.
Yeah, don't start any of those guys going
Yeah.
forward.
Next, we got Dolphins versus Buccaneers. Another mauling, absolutely just destroying people. Tom Brady is playing like an MVP at the age of 43. Um, I don't really know what, like, that's just crazy. 43 years old, and he's top three in the MVP conversation. I mean, him, Kyler, and Josh Allen. I mean, it's really crazy to think that he's throwing for 5 touchdowns and 411 yards at 43 years old.
When did they take him out of the game? Like
I
I saw
think
Gabbert.
I think it was at like the end of the fourth quarter, like maybe halfway through.
I mean, literally nobody on the Bucks had a bad game.
Like that's
Like
crazy.
like go through the stat box. All the starts that we told you: Fournette, Brady, Brown, Mike Evans, Godwin were all must starts. And what's his name? Gronk got injured, so don't you didn't we didn't tell you to start. All of them played extremely well. I think 14 plus points for all of them. Just just a mauling, really. Like I said, the Dolphins just are really struggling this season. I predicted them to regress this year. I thought they kind of overperformed last season. They won a few games I don't think they should have won. And one positive I will say though is Miles Gaskin. I mean, serious work out of the backfield. I think it was 10 receptions,
Yeah.
74 yards, 2 touchdowns, ridiculous volume, and rushing work wasn't too bad either. Although I like to see him get more. I think Tua's coming back into the fold this week. If Gaskin can keep that starting role, I think he's definitely a definite play going forward. And just Dolphins just look really bad, and Bucks look really good. Just two polar opposite teams in the NFL at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really about it for that game. Next we got the game where nobody knows how to kick the ball. So Bengals versus Packers, 5 total missed kicks in this game. It really goes to show how a kicker can just ruin your games. Yeah, I don't know. But going on to brighter things, Devontae Adams, the best wide receiver in the NFL, um, just showing why he's so good. Just like 11 receptions, 206 yards and a touchdown. Like that's ridiculous. Like his touchdown grab was insane. I said this at the beginning of the season, and I'm gonna stand by this. I think that Devonte Adams is the second best player in fantasy football behind Christian McCaffrey. Although I believe when I say that, a lot of people are like, oh, so then why wouldn't you take him second overall in drafts over like someone like Dalvin Cook or Alvin Kamara? Because of positional value, obviously. But if wide receivers and running backs were equated the same, Devonte Adams would go second on every board for me, in my opinion. He should go. The volume is there. His red zone efficiency is crazy. Him and Aaron Rodgers literally have a connection that's probably the best in the league. So yeah, I mean that's really all I have to say about that. Devonte Adams is just crazy. I have him in every league, and yeah, he's just the best.
It, it's absurd what he's doing. Like it's actually crazy. I think people definitely need to start. He's unanimous number one. I don't want to hear none of this Hopkins, Tyreek Hill talk anymore.
Yeah, he's better than Hop.
Please,
We
please.
see games where Hopkins literally has 2 receptions. That will never happen to Devonte Adams. Devonte Adams will always have over 5 receptions. Obviously, I'm gonna knock on wood because I don't want to lose my fantasy weeks this week, so I'll knock on wood there. But I mean, he is bust proof. He just can't be locked up. That's basically all
And
there
dude,
is to it.
every one of these elite wide receivers that we mentioned has a really good quarterback throwing them the ball, except Terry McLaurin. But I don't even think he's in that debate. Like we're just talking about like top five wide receivers. So I don't think you can even use quarterback argument. I think Aaron Rodgers is. I mean, it's debatable who's the best QB in the NFL right now, but definitely Kyler Murray, Mahomes, Tom Brady, all those guys are definitely in there. But I think Tay Adams' consistency just separates him from any other receiver in football right now. And the games where he does pop off are just ridiculous. Like
Like
Tyreek
his
Hill can go
impact
for
on the game is ridiculous
because he
because
does it for all four quarters. Like
because
Tyreek Hill will go off one quarter, but Adams will maintain that consistency
like
through
Tyreek Hill will
one,
take
two,
the
and
top
three,
off of your defense, but
four.
once you adjust your defense to stop that, he'll quiet down. But Devonte Adams, you could play him short, he's gonna beat you deep. You play him short, I mean, if you play deep, he's gonna beat you short. Like you can't stop him. Like he's just that good, and I think he showed that, and he's gonna continue showing that. I think the Bears are gonna get violated this week by him. Like it's gonna be really bad, like very bad.
Who do they have to match up against?
Jalen Johnson.
Yeah,
I mean, I mean, he's
it's not
played like
bad.
a top 10 corner this season, but like he's not like gonna guard Devonte Adams. Like
I don't even think barely anybody can neutralize Adams.
I think like Jalen Ramsey's the only guy in the league. Obviously,
Moore had a pretty good game against him too, but that's like,
he didn't have a pretty good. He had like an average game, like
yeah.
not even average. It was a below average.
And the Packers play like garbage that game too.
Yeah. So I don't know. Jalen Ramsey is really the only guy that could probably slow down Devonte Adams. I mean, like I just don't understand. Like a lot of the time, like I didn't understand until the Steelers game really why teams didn't just like double team or even triple team Devonte Adams, which the Steelers did. He still got 6 receptions for I think 70 yards when he's getting double and triple teamed on every play. Like that is something that I don't think any receiver in the league can do. I mean, other than obviously Julio in his prime, but like right now, I don't think there's another receiver who can do that.
Yeah, that's Calvin Johnson type attention.
Yeah, yeah, that's really like prime
Right,
AB, prime Julio
following.
type stuff. So it's really interesting to watch. But overall, good game from both teams. Their kickers really fumbled the bag for both sides. Packers ended up coming out on top, but I think the Bengals really have a bright season ahead of them, and so do the Packers. So I think there's really good things to see on both sides.
I want
And
to
the
touch on one more thing.
yeah,
Uh, Jamar Chase, bro, it's the preseason doubts that I was hearing. Like this guy can't catch the ball. NFL footballs are harder to catch. The drops,
I mean
like
he's the one who said that. He's the one who said the
he is
NFL
the one who
football.
said that. But the preseason drops and stuff, there were a lot of question marks going in, and he has really answered every single one of those doubters. And I is he is he the favorite for offensive rookie of the year
He
so
should
far?
be him or Najee Harris. It's really close, but
Sean Slater too has been pretty good,
Rashawn
but
Slater.
yeah, for the
I don't
Chargers.
really think an offensive lineman's gonna be
Well,
able to win that award. But I mean, even if he might deserve it, he won't get it. But
yeah, but
overall, Jamar Chase
Chase,
should probably win it.
back to Chase. I mean, I think it's every game this season besides one, he's had a receiving touchdown. I think
Yeah,
that's correct. That's pretty ridiculous start to the season, and the volumes there. His connection with Joe Burrow looks really good, and he is that clear number one receiver on Cincinnati's offense. And I think it's good things for him going forward. At the start of the season, I think I was pretty low on him, but he's kind of jumped to high wide receiver two categories for me with this start. We'll see if he can maintain that consistency, but so far he looks really good.
Yep, I agree with that 100%. I think that's really about it for that game. Next you can move on. Steelers Broncos. Once again, really showing that the Broncos aren't that team, just like the Panthers. They're not really that team we thought they were. They're not that top tier team. They're just an average team that may have a chance at a wild card spot. I mean, this game really did come down to the wire. That final drive from the Broncos, bringing them down to the inside the 20-yard line, and they had a chance to score a touchdown and maybe get that 2 point conversion to tie the game. But overall, just an average game all around for the team. Only person that really stood out, two people actually stood out. Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick, both with pretty good games. 7 receptions for both of them. Cortland Sutton with 120 yards and a touchdown, and Tim Patrick with 89 yards off 7 receptions. Um, so yeah, I just don't know why Melvin Gordon is still getting more carries than Javonte Williams. Melvin Gordon had one more carry but finished with 30 less yards. And Javonte Williams averaged 2 times the amount of yards per carry. So I think at this point it's really we're gonna start seeing Javonte Williams that workload ramp up. What a lot of people were talking about into the coming weeks. And I think Javonte Williams slowly but surely will make his way into that RB2 conversation. And yeah, I think that's really about it. Broncos fans should be ready for that Jerry Jeudy return maybe in the next 2 weeks, 2 3 weeks. So I think Broncos fans should still be excited for maybe a wild card spot this season. But other than that, really good game by the Steelers. Yeah, if you want to touch on the Steelers,
Yeah. I mean, Najee Harris,
it's different.
really, really good. I'm seriously impressed. Like this guy, he's such a good running back. He's durable. He's excellent out of the receiving game, out of the passing game. He's good running between the tackles, and he got a touchdown this week. And I think it was his first game rushing for over 100 yards. He got his breaks also. I think Benny Snell got a few carries, and Ballage got a few carries, but they weren't able to produce. I think that just shows how good Najee Harris is, and there's a reason. I'm not too big on drafting running backs pretty high in drafts, so I think they're pretty expendable. But I think for the Steelers, it was definitely worth it to go ahead and get Najee, and then with Juju going out, I think Deontay Johnson and Claypool stocks definitely go up. I think Claypool may be a little limited in his route running, but still, I think he'll be able to get that volume. And then Deontay has just been really good to start the season. Totally uncharacteristic from if you look at last season. He's had 0 drops this year, which is really surprising. And he's getting the volume too. And Big Ben's declined also from last year too. And he still had really good production. So I think it's looking really good for Deontay Johnson. I think he's gonna have a 1,000 yard receiving season,
Mm,
easily, potentially getting close to the 10 touchdown mark. And Ben Roethlisberger looked good this game, but still question marks over the ability to throw the ball downfield. I think it was he. I don't think. I think he was less than 30% on plays, like over 30 yards still. So I think he needs to work on that. But good win from the Steelers, and let's see if they can bounce back. Well, not bounce back. Let's see if they can keep the momentum going in
yeah.
the future weeks.
I'll add on one thing about the Steelers. A lot of people I see on social media hating on Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, I understand that some people may not like the guy, but you gotta understand that he just dislocated his shoulder. He's out for the season. He probably played his last game as a Steeler, and I just don't think it's right for people to be clowning him over him being injured. Just doesn't really make sense. I don't think no matter who the player is, I don't think injuries should be celebrated. Um, I really think if you're an influencer or and if you post on social media in general and you are making fun of a player for their injury just because you don't like them, should be really shame on you, to be honest. Just not
Yeah,
something that you should be doing.
it's such
Um,
a low blow. Like prayers out to Juju.
yeah, for sure.
He he lost a lot of money this year for staying with the Steelers, so I hope he can bounce back. He's a great player.
Yeah, like he literally took a pay cut to stay with the Steelers because he loves the organization. I mean, like overall, like I don't really understand how people hate the guy. I mean, he does TikToks, but I mean his production on the field isn't the worst. He's still a solid receiver. He loves the team. He loves his city. He does a lot for the community. Like I don't understand why people don't like the guy. Personally, I like the guy. I'm a fan of him. I mean, sure. I mean, personally, I think the TikToks are funny. I mean, he's just bringing more attention to the NFL, more attention to Steelers games. I mean, I'm sure the NFL people don't mind him bringing more attention. Like, I mean, that's really my thoughts on that. But back on topic, we got the Bears versus the Raiders. Raiders really just got destroyed, to be honest. Only 9 points. Obviously they're dealing with a lot of off the field drama with John Gruden now resigning. Um, I think to touch on John Gruden real quick. What he did was terrible. The things he said were terrible. I definitely think it was right for him to step down. Just too many distractions for the team. And just overall, those are things you should not be saying under any circumstances. Just really wasn't a good look for him or the people he was talking with. And I really think this is something that the NFL really needs to look into because I feel like if John Gruden did this, I feel like there's a lot of other coaches and lots of other executives and teams that are talking with this type of language. I think there's a controversy going on now with the Washington football team where John Gruden and their general manager were sending pictures of cheerleaders from the football team topless, and they were sending pictures of that to each other. Like, I think this is really like this is something that's going on. I think it's a really toxic thing going on throughout the league, and I think it really needs to be sorted out. I don't think John Gruden's the only person that's doing this type of bad stuff. So overall, I just don't think the Raiders were playing their best game. The Bears really just won this game. Fields didn't look bad. He looked actually pretty decent, to be honest. Pretty efficient. Not too much yardage or anything, but overall decent. Once
The
again,
running game,
huh?
the running game is really what won the Bears the game. Um, 37 carries overall. They just pounded the ball. Sort of like this style of play. They dominated possession. They didn't let the Raiders get too much of the ball, and they were efficient with Damian Williams scoring a touchdown and tight end getting a touchdown. Just solid performance from them. I think that should be the game plan going forward. Pounding the ball. The play calling for the passing game isn't the best, so I think just stick with your bread and butter there until David Montgomery gets back. And Allen Robinson
Another
is just
disappointing showing.
it's sad. I mean, I think if this before the season, I think Allen Robinson was a top 10 receiver in the league, and I think he franchise tagged this offseason to stay
Yep.
with the Bears when he potentially could have got money somewhere else. So just really disappointed from him.
Like
Like
this man, bro, just get him an elite QB one season. Bro's in Jacksonville, just terrible QBs there. Then my man came to Buffalo. I mean, the Chicago, more trash QBs. Like it's just
bad.
unfortunate because he's so talented and his
And
talent
now
is
he's
getting
not even
wasted.
getting the ball. He's not even getting the ball anymore. Like, bro, with Nick
Like you
Foles,
have to put the ball in your playmaker's hands. That's like the most basic thing of play calling, and it's just like the Bears don't understand that. I feel like, and it's really sad to see, but it is what it is at this point. I think
he
going
is like,
forward, I think if you have better options on your bench, Allen Robinson may have to sit on your bench until we see something different because he's just putting up dud after dud every week, and it's just not.
he's definitely on the bench. Like, I
Yeah,
don't have him in any leagues, but definitely bench him. Like,
like
there
if
is
you
no
have
way for
any
him.
receiver, like I would be starting Tim Patrick over him at this point. Like Tim Patrick has been more consistent, putting up 13 to 18 fantasy points a week. Well, I don't think Allen Robinson's broken like 11 points yet. Like that's ridiculous.
Kadarius Tony on waivers.
Like
Like,
Kadarius Tony is a better start. Like there's a like it's just not. I don't know, man. Just not good looks.
He's like 6'4", six. He's tall. He's got good route
Talent.
running.
He's good hands, good route running. Like, why is this
Like,
guy not getting the ball? Like Matt Nagy, bro. Like, just get out of Chicago, man. I don't know what else to say. Just overall, at least they won the game, but yeah, that's about it. I think we can move on to a really entertaining game actually. Chargers Browns. This game was crazy. This game was really crazy. I'll touch on the Chargers. Like, this man, Justin Herbert, 5 total touchdowns. Mike Williams is a literal, like, demigod. Like, he is insane. Like, this is the Mike Williams I saw that, like, destroyed Alabama in the national championship in college. Like, this Mike Williams is dominant with the ball in his hands, jump ball demon, deep threat. Like, it's all coming together for him. I just hope he can stay healthy because he's so talented. Eckler, once again, huge game from him. Like, Chargers team looks dangerous. Like, they look dangerous. They look good. And I'm really excited to watch this team going into the future.
I mean, dude, Mike Williams is outperforming Keenan Allen this season.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty crazy. And I'm telling you, man, mid round wide receivers in fantasy, aside from Brandon Ayuk, I'm not talking about like mid round. I mean like the DJ Moore, Mike Williams, that type of range, except for Brandon Ayuk, the Debo Samuel area, have all been studs this year. And Mike Williams, like we were super high on him going into the season. We talked about Hunter Henry leaving the offense. They ended up cutting one of their wide receivers. They knew he would have a big role, and he's just come out and he just balled out. Aside from the disappointing game I think he had week 4, he's just been a stud in fantasy. I think he's the number 2 wide receiver so far. The targets he's getting is just ridiculous. 16 targets this week. That's absurd and just sign of good things to come. But I'll transition to the Browns here.
Yep.
Um, Baker Mayfield, really efficient, played a really good game. Nick Chubb, like yards after contact, man. Like seriously, this dude ran all over the Chargers. Sadly, he's out this week, but he was a dog this week. Kareem Hunt as well. Another another great
And
performance.
Nick Chubb's out this week, so Kareem Hunt is going to be
Bro,
big
Kareem
time
Hunt's
play
putting up
against the
30.
Cardinals.
Putting up 30, bro.
Yeah. And I'm
He's
excited
having
to
a
see
bad
this. I'm
year.
excited to see Kareem Hunt get a full workload. And I want to see this because this is going to be a preview for what we're going to see next season for Kareem Hunt to whichever team he goes to. So,
Yeah. And every Odell Beckham Jr.
I don't get it. I don't get why he's not getting more volume. It's just dumb. Like, once again,
I
put the
started in this
ball in
league.
your good players' hands. Like, I understand that Donovan Peoples-Jones is Donovan Peoples-Jones and David Njoku had a good game. But why is Odell Beckham Jr. not getting more targets? It just doesn't make sense. Stupid.
I think he had one drop. You know which one I'm talking about on 4th down. But that's it. Like I don't understand, man.
Like,
I'm
like,
not starting
this is
him
my
in
problem with the
fantasy.
Cardinals, too. Like, we're going to go to the Cardinals next, but I just don't understand why DeAndre Hopkins, when he's getting neutralized, they just go away from him. Like, when you have a star player, like when you look at the Packers, this is one of the reasons why Devontae Adams is so good. Like Devontae may be getting locked up. He may have 2 catches going to the third quarter. They still have plays drawn up specifically for him to put the ball in his hands, whether it's a wide receiver screen to get him going. And when I see teams that have these guys like DeAndre Hopkins, Odell Beckham Jr., and you're just not going to put the ball in their hands, just sort of leave them out of the game plan once they have a bad quarter, like, that should never be happening. And I just don't know why that's, like, a thing.
Odell needs this too. Like he needs this comeback season. Like let's look Odell the past 3 years. Like I'm obviously injury factor in that, but like seriously, he's been disappointing. Like let's like what he was in New York is nowhere close to what he is now in Cleveland.
Yep.
And whether that's down to quarterback play, coaching, whatever it is, he's just not played good, and his stocks fell off pretty heavy. And I think he needs this season. He needs. I think he needs to remind people of his worth because he's super talented. It just sucks that when they're in the clutch, they're giving Donovan Peoples-Jones and Rashad Higgins targets over him.
Yep.
When I think I mean, Asante Samuel Jr., great corner, no question, but we're talking about Odell Beckham here, the
Yep.
creme de la creme of the wide receivers in the NFL, and I think he can beat Asante most times off the line. So I don't see why he's not getting more targets, and it's disappointing. The Browns came up short in this game. There was potential pass interference shouts. I think on
Yeah, that Mike Williams call is really questionable.
yeah, and then there was like the Njoku Hail Mary where he got tripped up. But Chargers came out with the W here. I think they probably deserved it as well. Great comeback at the end from Justin Herbert, and disappointing from the Browns, but still, I think they're definitely a playoff team. They definitely can make a deep run into the playoffs again.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Both of these teams are really good, and that game was very entertaining to watch. Next is Giants versus Cowboys. Before we even get into this game, I'd just like to say that the Giants' injuries is just so unfortunate. Like, they got so many injuries in that game. Daniel Jones going out, Galladay going out, Saquon injured again. It really sucks to see. And that's really all it was for the Giants. I mean, like, Kadarius Toney obviously broke the rookie single game receiving yards record. But, I mean, other than that, Giants just really did the best they could without their three best offensive players. The Cowboys, just another efficient game. Good, just good, very good on the ground. Both Zeke and Pollard, very efficient, over 5 yards a carry, both of them. CD Lamb with a good game, Amari Cooper with a good game, Schultz with another good game. Like, this team looks dangerous. The Cowboys look dangerous, and I think they're gonna make a deep run in the playoffs. Because they're the best team in the NFC East, and it's not really close. And they look like a top four, top five team in the NFC for sure.
This might be a bad take, but Saquon Barkley, I don't know how long he's out for, and prayers out to Saquon Barkley. I know Daniel Jones is back this week, so I'm happy to see that. Do they know Barkley's injury yet?
It was an ankle. I think he's gonna be out for a week or two.
Week or two. Man, I'm thinking about this 2018 draft, how the Giants had the number 2 pick, and they decided to go with the running back here, who's
Yeah.
ultimately been injured quite a bit and hasn't really improved the team that much. When they could have possibly gone out and got Josh Allen, Quentin Nelson, Bradley Chubb, Denzel Ward. It's a lot of other players. I'm just thinking about that pick and potentially I'm just gonna say I don't think that was. If we're gonna look back at this now, I don't think that it was that great of a pick.
I mean, I
I'm just
think,
thinking about it.
but you can
A
really
running
never
back
predict
at number
injuries.
two. A running back at number 2
I
is
think it's a
never.
bit ridiculous, but the thing is, when you look at it, Saquon is one of the best running back talents we have seen come out of college. Like,
Yes.
ever.
Yes.
And obviously, looking back at it, I mean, there's a lot of times where you look back at it, and I really hate, like, looking back at it and saying a player is a bust. Especially when there really were no signals in college that the issue that popped up in the league was like never evident in college. The injuries weren't really a concern coming out of college, and Saquon was dominant in college. It really was crazy, and I think no one really criticizes the Zeke pick at 4. And it's really just unfortunate what the injuries did. But if
Okay.
Saquon was
Sneak
healthy,
peek
I
at
just don't
4.
think. that's even a debate. I think it's still the right pick. He's that talented. It's just unfortunate, really, with these injuries.
Okay, Zeke at 4, right? Cowboys. I don't remember exactly what happened that season, but I think they had was it injuries or did they just play bad? But the season that they got him, well, he leads the league in rushing. Cowboys' offensive line is ridiculous. I think they make a pretty decent run into the
I mean,
playoffs.
but Saquon had a crazy rookie season with the terrible O line. So, I mean, the talent's there.
Zeke
It's
pick
just
was
the
more of a
unfortunate
luxury pick.
injuries. I mean,
Zeke pick was more of a luxury pick because they had like that team established around him. Saquon, I don't know if it's necessarily the same thing. It's been difficult though. Like obviously at the time, yes, it's not. It's the right pick. Like I'm sorry, I'm not taking any of those players that I just mentioned over him at the time. But like if we're just talking about
yeah,
off of
obviously, right now, Josh Allen should be, what, the top pick of that draft, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken?
yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Wait, no, wait, is it
Or was
oh no,
Mahomes in that draft?
Lamar. Him or Lamar, yeah.
Oh, wait, Lamar's in that draft. Yeah. No, yeah. Josh Allen should be number one. Lamar would go two. But, I mean, realistically, that's not. I mean, like, we've never really seen a quarterback like Lamar succeed in the league. Josh Allen was super unproven coming out of college, just really a raw talent. I mean, there was really no excuse for picking anyone else over him. I mean, you could say Quentin Nelson,
Vita Vea was drafted in 2018.
Vita Vea.
What the fuck? I thought this dude was like 36.
Yeah, bro, I thought Vita Vea was super old too. What the heck?
What the heck? No, yeah, he's drafted in 2018, bro. He's 26 years old. What the hell?
That's crazy. I didn't even know that. That's actually crazy.
He's a demon, bro. But it's just that pick. I don't know if we'll live back if Giants will live back to regret that, but it's just been difficult for Saquon. I hope he has a great career and all, but in hindsight, we might look back and think about that differently. But aside from that, Kadarius Toney balled out. Like really, he had a fantastic game. Like
Yeah.
that was what he was doing was. I've seen the clips. I've seen his route running. It looks so good. Like you didn't need to pay Kenny Galladay all that money. I'm sorry. You have three solid guys sitting in the fold. Clayton, Shepard, and Tony. All of them can stretch the field, run intermediate routes, and make plays with the balls in their hand. Um, it's just he looked really good. And then I think it was Devontae Booker who took over when Barkley got injured. Also played really good. I think he's the lead back this week with the carries that he got. He also got good work out of the backfield too. I mean, out of the receiving game also. So he looked really good also. Giants, for the circumstances that they were in, did not play a bad game.
Yep.
And I think they definitely look promising with Daniel Jones at the helm. So we'll see what they can do next week.
Yep, for sure. I think next time we can move on to the Cardinals 49ers game. Again, another game that was really way closer than we thought it would. Kyler didn't really have that crazy. I mean, he was efficient. Nothing too bad. Nothing too good. From Kyler here. Just an average game. But I think something that really hurt them was Chase Edmonds not being 100%. And I think that really kind of made them one dimensional. And overall, they still won this game. 49ers played a decent game as well. But overall, it's just a solid win from the Cardinals. I mean, there was really nothing to highlight from either side. Deebo Samuel had a down game. DeAndre Hopkins had a good game. 20.7 fantasy points. But other than that, just a solid game, I think, from the Cardinals.
I think Trey Lance actually played really well. Like, look at the rushing stats. Like, those are actually pretty impressive. I think he's actually running the ball a little too much. I don't necessarily want my franchise quarterback
Running
rushing the
16
ball
times.
16 times. Like, that's a bit questionable. And I actually think him and Kyler actually played like similarly throughout the entire game. It's just the difference is Kyler threw a touchdown pass and um, Trey Lance didn't. I watched the game. I really like the 49ers. a lot of these completion stats, I think it was 15 for 29, are not actual reflection of how he threw the ball. There were a lot of drops, like seriously, a lot of drops. Ayuk, um, definitely needs to fix up a little bit, and Debo had a few drops. So I think Lance did not play bad for his first start, and he was playing against probably the most informed team in the league.
Yep.
So definitely not a bad first start for Trey Lance, and I think Jimmy G's the guy. I think Jimmy G's the starter next week when he's coming back from injury. I don't think the Trey Lance is like the official guy yet, but it's still promising signs from a young QB
I
that just
agree.
needs to play games. So I think it's good signs for Trey Lance, and then a few takeaways from the Cardinals. Had a down week, but ultimately we're still able to pull out the W against the division rival. This game wasn't going to be easy. Niners defense has always been really strong, so good to see the Cardinals winning these types of games. And I think that with the additions that they've made this season, seriously, I think top three team in the league, top two in the team in the league right now easily. And
Yeah,
Kyler's
them and the
playing.
Bills for sure. I mean,
Huh?
speaking of the Bills, Bills versus Chiefs, absolutely dominant from the Bills here. Um, just just straight domination. They destroyed them. Josh Allen is playing like the favorite for MVP. I think
If you've got
either that him or Kyler are and Tom Brady are the three runners for MVP as of right now. And for me, Josh Allen is my favorite for it. He's doing it through the air. He's doing it through the ground. Like he's getting everyone on his team involved. Like I don't really know what else there is to say. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has already matched his interception total from last season. I think you called this at the beginning of the season. We saw the dropped interceptions last year, and it's really showing this year. I mean, I don't really know. Like Tyreek Hill had a decent game. I mean, Travis Kelce had a good game, but it just once again they don't have that third option on offense. Like Patrick Mahomes should not have more rushing yards than the two running backs combined. Like that, it just shouldn't happen. And I really think it's worrying that the Chiefs are giving up so many points. Their offense really isn't doing the crazy things we saw in years past, and they're just getting dominated on a weekly basis. And I think if this continues, we're seeing a potential dynasty fall apart in front of our eyes, which is really unfortunate to see. But right now, the Bills are playing out of their minds, and yeah, I mean that's really much. That's really what I saw yesterday. I mean not yesterday
I mean,
on Sunday night.
yeah, it's really disappointing to see what's happening. It's I think it's a combination of teams finally realizing how to play the Chiefs, using the Tampa Bay style defense of really neutralizing the two main threats in Travis Kelce and Hill, and then bringing pressure to Mahomes, and then kind of forcing him to stay inside the pocket with like design schemes and stuff. So Bills executed their game plan perfectly, and Chiefs defense is really it's really dodgy. Like if they're not putting points up on the board and outscoring their opponents every single week, they are in serious trouble. Like even the Eagles game was actually closer than it should have been last week. I don't really know what to think of the Chiefs right now. Definitely definitely not Super Bowl favorites right
Yeah, I
now.
don't think they're contenders right now either.
Yeah, and there's questions whether or not if they'll even win that division. So right now, I don't think they're even in pole position. Chargers definitely got the edge on them, and they got the head to head over them too. So I don't really know. I don't really know what to think of the Chiefs right now. They got to make some improvements. Got to
Hmm.
figure out what's going wrong. Still think they're a good football team, but they're just going through a rough patch.
Yep. I think we move on. Colts Ravens Monday night game. I mean, another just crazy game this week. Colts absolutely fumbling the bag up. What was it, 22-7, I believe. Just
Yeah.
really poor decision making, and once again missed field goals. Like it's just I don't know, man.
And I'll cut Blankenship some slack. I'm not gonna lie. His first okay, so he went 2 of 4 last on Monday night. One of them was blocked, and then he was injured actually. If you didn't know that, some other dude ended up taking the kick for him, and he came back, and then he's out for this week also, and he missed the kick, and he was playing on an injury, so I'll cut him a little slack. But what cost the Colts the game is Frank Reich. Frank Reich cost the Colts the game. Way too conservative. They were, I think, I don't know what the score was, but at the time, but I think the Chiefs got into the red zone and they weren't even trying to score the ball. Reich settled for a field goal and they kept losing yards trying to rush it. And then Blankenship stepped up and he missed it. And that's when Lamar went down the field and scored, got the 2 point conversion, and then we were in overtime. And then touch on the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, what he did last on Monday night was just ridiculous. I mean, one of the best QB performances that I've literally witnessed on live television. Like, I'm sorry, what he was doing was just every time he got the ball, something happened. He was rushing all over them. He was throwing dimes. Mark Andrews, Hollywood Brown had two of the best receiving games of the year. It was just ridiculous what was happening. And I don't know if the Colts defense fell apart or Lamar Jackson's that good. I don't really know what to think of that. And but Carson Wentz also played well, so it's disappointing for the Colts, but the Ravens just look really strong this year after losing quite a lot of pieces early on in the season
Yeah.
due to injuries.
Yep, I agree with that 100%. Ravens are really contenders this year. Lots of good teams in that AFC North, and it's going to be interesting to watch them battle that out. Um, but I think that really wraps up our segment for our Week 5 reactions. We can move on, I think, now to our Week 6 starts and sits. I think obviously the Thursday game has already passed. We posted on our TikTok who to start. We got one right. Unfortunately, Mike Evans and Devonta Smith did not see the targets we really thought they would. But Leonard Fournette did pop off, and we told you guys to start him. 30 points, really good game from him. But I think we move on to the London game, Dolphins Jaguars. We keep sending really trash teams over there, which is really weird. But Dolphins Jags. I think Dolphins. You got to start Gaskin after last week. I think you'd start Gesicki here, and I could see arguments for maybe a Jalen Waddle or maybe Devontae Parker if you have to. But I think the only two guys you should really be starting for sure are probably Gesicki and Gaskin for the Dolphins.
Um, Jags. I'm I'm potentially starting Trevor Lawrence this week. I think he could potentially have a good game. His projections are pretty high this week. Definitely starting James Robinson. Miami's defense has been exposed by almost every single running back that they faced. And then, surprisingly, although we said not to start any Jags receivers, I'm potentially flexing Marvin Jones this week because I think that Miami's defense is that bad enough where I can see Marvin Jones potentially having a pretty decent game.
Yeah, for sure. Next we have Vikings Panthers. Ooh, I'll take the Vikings here. Vikings, I think Dalvin Cook is back, so obviously you have to start him. Justin Jefferson, you have to start him. Adam Thielen, I'd still start him this week, but it's getting to the point where I could see you starting other players over him because this touchdown thing is really getting scary as a fantasy owner. And other than that, I really don't see anyone else because I think the Panthers' defense isn't too bad, so I wouldn't start Tyler Conklin. So I'd start Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Cook this week.
And then for the Panthers, um starting Chuba Hubbard. I think McCaffrey was ruled out once again,
Yeah,
hamstring. And then DJ Moore is a definite start for me. Robbie Anderson, I'm not playing him. Has not seen any
that's
volume.
our Sam
And
Darnold.
then you starting Sam Darnold?
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll start Sam Darnold as well. Look for him to bounce back.
Yep. Next is another good game, Chargers Ravens. I think we might see something. I mean, last week, I don't know. I might jinx myself again. Last week I said Chargers Browns would be a defensive game, and they ended up combining for over almost 90 points. Um, I think this may be a high scoring game, but now it might end up combining for under like 20 points. But um, I think this is going to be a high scoring game, so I'll go with the Chargers.
Hey, where's the game in? I think that matters a lot. For some reason. Is
What
it
like
in?
where the game is?
Yeah, is it in California?
Let me see.
Because I seriously think like environment kind of has like a little.
I don't really know. Oh, it's at the Raven. Yeah, I think it's in Baltimore.
It's in Baltimore. Okay.
I think I'm gonna start. So for the Chargers, I'm starting Eckler, obviously. Starting Mike Williams. Starting Keenan Allen. And Justin
Herbert.
Herbert, and that's it. Yeah.
And then Ravens, Lamar Jackson, not touching any of those RBs. Mark Andrews must start. Marquise Brown must start. And Rashad Bateman's a little too early to play, although he just got activated off IR. Don't
He'll
start
be
him.
interesting. So watch for him. Watch for him
He'll,
this
he'll
week. See what he
he'll
does
be an interesting play.
for
We'll
sure.
see what role he has.
Yep. Next we have Rams Giants. Rams. I'll take the Rams here. I think this is gonna be another one where I think we may see a shootout, but I think it's either there's gonna be a shootout or the Rams win by 40. We'll see. But the Rams here. I'm starting Woods. I'm starting Cup. I'm starting Higbee. I'm starting Henderson. I'm starting Stafford.
And Giants, starting Daniel Jones just got active. He's active this
You're
week.
starting Daniel Jones
Yes,
against the Rams defense.
Daniel Jones will have a good game. Daniel Jones, trust me, Daniel Jones will have a good game. I'm extremely
That's
confident.
really risky, though. That's really risky.
Yeah,
That
I'm
could
starting.
backfire.
Dude, Russell Wilson just got injured. Guess who I just threw in my starting QB position?
Geno Smith.
Daniel Jones.
Oh, I thought you said Geno. I thought you were about to say Geno
Oh, no,
Smith.
no, bro. I'm starting Daniel Jones, and if he flops, I'll hold the L here, bro. But like, I'm a firm believer in the Jones supremacy, bro. This dude is actually solid. And then wide receivers wise, Galladay I think's rolled out this week. Um, Shepard is back, and I think Tony's playing. Is Tony playing?
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't I, I don't know who to start out of those two. One of them's gonna flop.
I'll
I'll
start
start
both.
Tony. Start both, yeah. I'll start both. I think both of them have good games. And then also I'm starting Devontae Booker too.
Yeah, I think that's solid. Next we'll go Texans Colts. I think I'll take the Texans. It's a really quick one. Brandon Cooks. Whoa, that's crazy.
Um Colts, starting Carson Wentz, starting Jonathan Taylor, starting Michael Pittman, and that's it, yeah.
All right. Next we got Chiefs Washington. Oh yeah, I'll add for the Colts. Start Mo Alley Cox if you need a tight end. Texans have been very very bad against the tight ends this season. Okay,
Yep.
Chiefs Washington. Chiefs. It's really simple. Mahomes. I'd start Darrell Williams this week just because of how bad the football team's offense is, and then Tyreek Hill Kelsey. I think that's really it.
And then football team. I heard Antonio Gibson's carrying a knock into this game.
But I'd still start him. You have
Still
to.
starting him though. You drafted him that high. McLaurin also, I think's question. No, was McLaurin cleared? I think McLaurin got cleared.
Yeah, McLaurin's good.
Um, yeah, start him as well, and that's about it.
Yep. Packers Bears. Devontae Adams, like I touched on before, he's gonna violate this Bears defense. Start Devontae Adams. Start Aaron Jones. Start Aaron Rodgers. Don't I wouldn't start Tunyon. I think there's too many other good options this week to start Tunyon. Two touchdown dependent. I want to do it. So yeah, Devontae, Aaron Jones, and Aaron Rodgers.
And then Bear side of the ball, I just picked this guy up. What's his name
Khalil
again? The
Herbert.
run. What's his name?
Khalil Herbert.
Khalil Herbert. Yeah. Damian Williams went down with COVID, I think.
Yep.
So start him. I think he'll have a pretty good game. And bench Allen Robinson. I don't think he's gonna have a good game, and I don't think Justin Fields is a good play here either.
Yep. Next you got Bengals Lions. Lots of starts in this game. I think both teams are gonna put up a lot of points here. Bengals, I'll go Jamar Chase. I think T Higgins, Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon.
And what's the other team? Sorry, what's the other
Also
team
sit
again?
Tyler Boyd.
What's the other team again? Sorry,
Lions.
Lions. I'm starting DeAndre Swift. I'm starting TJ Hawkinson, and then two sneaky flex plays are Armand St. Brown and Jamal Williams. I think will have pretty decent roles and could
Yep.
potentially put up a good amount of points.
Yep, for sure. Next you have Cardinals Browns. I think it's going to be another big score game. So I'll go with the Browns. Start Kareem Hunt with no Nick Chubb. Going to be huge. Probably going to finish the top 3 running back on the week. And I think that's really it. I think, to be honest, I don't know if I could start anybody else here with confidence on the Browns. I don't think Odell is the start this week.
Um, Let me look through this again. uh, for the Cardinals, I think we got a pretty decent amount of starts here. Zach Ertz is ruled ineligible, so he can't play. But Kyler Murray's definite must start. DeAndre Hopkins must start always, and Chase Edmonds also a must start. And then flex play of the week, I'd probably say James Conner just because I think he's gonna get in that end zone
Yeah,
and potentially get one or two touchdowns against the Browns defense. So
I agree
yeah.
with that. Next you got Cowboys Patriots. Another interesting game. I'll go with the Patriots. I think Damian Harris, if he plays, Damian Harris, Jacoby Myers, huge start this week. I think Jacoby Myers is a high end wide receiver too this week. And I'd even look into starting Mac Jones this week. If you're streaming QBs and you don't have a really solid QB, I'd see Mac Jones maybe this week for a big week. I think maybe Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry's really emerged as a really nice red zone target for Mac Jones. So if you have a guy like Robert Tunyon that you don't feel confident in, you could look at Hunter Henry as a potential option.
Yep. And then Cowboys, like really explosive offense, a lot of starts. Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, although their volume has significantly decreased in
Yeah.
the past few weeks, still start them with confidence. Dalton Schultz, I think, is also a must start. And then flex play, Tony Pollard, he's been averaging 5 yards per carry the past few
And then
games.
Zeke, obviously.
And then Zeke, obviously, is also a start. Yeah.
Next, Raiders Broncos. Broncos wise, I'd go Javonte Williams as a flex play. Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant, and yeah, that's it.
What's his name?
Tim Patrick.
Tim
Oh yeah,
Patrick.
forgot Tim Patrick. Yep, Tim Patrick as well.
Good play this week. And then Raiders side of the ball, I think they're gonna bounce back this week. So, Derek Carr, if you're streaming QBs, but
I wouldn't
not the
start
safe.
it. I would not start him against Denver defense.
I mean, who did Denver play last week? I think
Steelers.
yeah, Roethlisberger had a pretty good game against them. So I mean,
I mean, he has way
yeah,
better weapons than Carr too. So
that's true. I'm gonna start Darren Waller though with confidence.
Yep.
Um, Josh Jacobs, I think you took him so high that kind of have to play him every week, although he's not the best running back. But if you do have better running back options, I would not play him. Just to say that. And then Hunter Renfro has looked really good these past weeks, so I think he's a start. And yeah, I think that's about it.
Yep. Next, we got Seahawks Steelers, Sunday night game. Wilson's out, but I'd still start Metcalf. I'd maybe not even start Lockett. I would see what else you have on your bench. If you have other receivers on your bench, I could see benching Lockett this week, but realistically, if you don't have other better options, I'd go with Lockett. And Chris Carson's out, so I'd start Alex Collins this week. And I think that's about it. Those three.
And it's Steelers for
Mm-hmm.
the second game. Um, I'm starting Deontay Johnson. I'm starting Chase Claypool. I'm starting Najee Harris. And yeah, that's about it. No,
Yep.
don't start Big Ben in fantasy football, please don't.
Yeah, it's too risky. Next, Bills Titans. I'll go with the Bills. Dawson Knox is a start. Josh Allen's a start. Zach Moss is a start. Diggs is a start. Emmanuel Sanders is a start. Cole Beasley could be a start. Gabriel Davis could be a start. Like, Josh Allen is distributing the ball around a lot. There's a lot of solid options that you could start for the Bills here. A lot of flex options.
And oh my
Titans.
God, Titans. I think they're gonna actually really struggle this game. I don't know is Julio active this week and AJ Brown.
AJ Brown is not sure about Julio.
Yeah, it's. I think it's good. I don't think it's gonna be a good game for Tennessee, but still start Derrick Henry with confidence.
Yeah.
AJ Brown, I think you kind of have to play him for the position you drafted him at, but if you do have better options this week, I would potentially look into that.
No. You got to start AJ Brown. You cannot. You
I
can't
mean, bro,
bench him.
you can't bench him, but like, I don't
I
think he's
don't
gonna
think he's
have.
at the point of Allen Robinson. I don't think he's at that point yet. I think you should wait on that. Start him this week. We'll see. Tre'Davious White may shadow him, which may be a problem, but I really think that you can't really bench AJ Brown. There's no justification for that unless you have a really, really good wide receiver on your bench.
You drafted him what in your second round?
Second,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't. Yeah. So I think that really wraps it up for our starts and sits of the week. I think that really wraps up the podcast. Make sure to go to our description, check out our other socials, especially our TikTok. That's where we literally post almost every day, giving you starts and sits for the week, breaking news, just overall like takeaways from weeks before we post the podcast every week. Just you'll get quicker information, more reliable, not more reliable, but you'll get reliable and quicker information from our TikTok, so make sure to go check that out. And other than that, I think that's it for the podcast today, guys. Have a good rest of your week and good luck on Sunday.